Welcome to another episode of Closers or Losers. I've got my guest here, the main man, James. James, how do I pronounce your name? I always get it wrong, and we work together in the same company.
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Legend.
It's Legend. We got James. Oh, that is good, man. We got James Legend here, kind of over you're over everything, like operations, running the company, all that kind of stuff. And you're in our Sydney, Australia office. How is it down under?
It's the weather's not been great the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of rain. My house managed to get flooded the other week, but it is what it is.
Your home is right next to the beach, though, right?
Yeah, all the big waves.
You got a challenging life, beach home, driving the exotic cars. We all feel very bad for you over there.
No, I'm glad.
I think it's kind of your winter now down in Sydney, right?
Yeah, so we're like opposite to you. So you guys are becoming right into summer, particularly in Phoenix.
Very hot right now.
Watching. Yeah, you got the aircon pumping?
We got the air pumping, right? It was like 100. I think it was 100. I think it's 100 degrees today, which, May is it starts to get pretty warm. Then June, July, August, it's really, really hot here. Even September, it gets cooler in the nights. But anyways, It's all good. So I wanted to bring you on here because you're such an expert in building the right team culture in any organization, but also with salespeople. Okay. Yep. So you've really done an excellent job with all of our salespeople and stuff. You've built this environment, this culture where they want to thrive. They're competitive, but they also want to work together for the betterment of the team. Okay. And I think a lot of companies, they need help with that. We get a lot of emails. We get a lot of requests like, hey, can you guys go over like how to build a better culture with our salespeople? Walk us back a little bit. Like it's only been a couple of years, 100 some plus salespeople and stuff. Where did you learn how to build teams like that?
I think sort of like somewhat naturally gifted at that, but have been able to work with people that are very, very well placed in that area to actually learn off and kind of bring out that natural talent and such. Because it is a skill, but it always helps to have like a strong general understanding. So my background was really in elite athlete sports teams.
Yes.
And was lucky enough to work over here in Australia, the equivalent of like the New England Patriots or the Phoenix Suns teams.
So like you were, okay. So you were, what is it like? When you say football, are you like talking about soccer? Was it
NRL. So rugby might be
okay. It's rugby. Okay. That's right. Yeah. You told me this before. I forgot. So, okay. So you were working with sports teams, like the big rugby team, like would be the equivalent of the Patriots over here, or like the Lakers over here, or Celtics, or some of the great teams. Okay. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sales teams are a lot like sporting teams. You have a bunch of individuals that are highly talented. They all have their roles to play. There's always going to be one or two that's the key person. But in a general sense, as a part of a team, they all have to work together regardless of their role. You might have your quarterback, which could be the head of sales. You might have your wide receiver, which could be the setters, and whilst the quarterback is always going to be the main guy and he's ultimately accountable for getting the job done and he's the one that's going to get the criticism, he only is able to do a good job when he has the rest of the team fulfilling their roles. Yeah. And when you're able to take that kind of ideology and put it into a sales team as if you would with a sports team, because they have the same processes, they all want to be the best. Regardless of who they are on the team, they have the ambition to always be the Tom Brady or be the whoever. I don't know.
Be too many LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, right? Yeah. Okay.
Everyone wants to get to that stage. And I think understanding and teaching people that they have a role to play within that team. But that doesn't mean that they can't be that guy in the end. There's just a couple of steps that they need to take a couple of boxes that they need to tick.
So if you think about like the great teams, like, I know Matt, our CEO is a big fan of the Chicago Bulls. So
as
about
am
the Chicago Bulls, you had Michael Jordan, but you also had Dennis Rodman, and you had Steve Kerr, and you had, Scottie Pippen, and a bunch of others that were role players, but they all contributed. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing there is giving direction. It's like, well, you can be the Jordan in 5 years, but you have to learn these skills first.
Yeah.
And you have to be consistent with those. And that's where, when you get that little buy-in from everyone, then someone like yourself can come in and teach them the right skills so that they have that progression to be the number one at any given stage. It's a little bit different with sales team, particularly your sales team. Whereas sometimes it's Scottie Pippen as the highest point scorer, other times it's Dennis Rodman, other times it's Michael Jordan, right? And that's where that internal competition really drives to push each other. So I think being able to build that in taking it from an elite sports team into a sales team is very important for the long-term success.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's say you bring salespeople in. Let's talk a little bit about what type of salespeople you typically, you were over the hiring process a long time ago. Back in the day, a couple of years ago. We now have other people that do that. But what were you looking for when you were interviewing? Because a lot of people would come in and want to sell for us. But what caused you to hire one person over another that both seemed eager?
Yeah. So, funnily enough, the sales skill wasn't the highest factor. We've always been confident in your ability to train people in the NAPQ process. That given enough time, they're going to be very, very good in that skill set.
Yeah.
Right. So it was more so, if two people are of equal skill, it's coming down to which of those has, a better attitude, which of those is going to put in the additional work, which of those is going to, invest in themselves and is doing outside stuff to get themselves better. Because, we're always going to back our process to get people better. It's just making sure that we're picking the right people to come into that team that are going to be able to adapt and fit into the process, particularly the one that you've laid out in terms of developing salespeople.
Yeah. And I think, and one thing James said a second ago that I want to clarify. So when James says setters, we call, like, some people would call that SDR reps. All right. So if you're B2B sales, you might call it SDR reps. We call it setters on our team. Some companies call it setters. So I just wanted to clarify because I know we have a lot of B2B salespeople that follows too, because of the training in B2C. So that's what James means. Setters, SDRs, basically same thing, booking appointments, getting leads, those type of things.
Yeah. Also, like your outbound, the people that are working in a call center, the people that are finding, digging through the admin, getting through the gatekeeper to get the right person on the phone. If you're the CEO of a company, for instance, you probably don't have the time to be calling all the leads and getting through to the gatekeeper to get the right person on the phone. You'll have someone do that for you. When they find the right person, they'll connect them with you to have the important conversation.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you hire these people. And one thing that we always have employers ask when they're hiring salespeople, this is kind of outside the box, but I just want to share this with everybody, is we typically want employers to ask the sales rep, because, everybody has a great resume, because everybody can have a great resume. It can be written. It's
very easy to
resume person. But so when they come in, it's like, the question is like, well, how much money did you invest in learning more advanced sales skills when you had your job, as salesperson? If they're like, well, I bought this book and, the company brought in this guy to train us, we're not really wanting to hire that type of person over the person's like, hey, I invested $2,000 last year or $5,000, or I got in some advanced training, like I paid $10,000, I borrowed it, I put it on credit or whatever, so I could get better to sell more, because that tells us they treat their sales position as a profession. That's what it is. They treat their sales position as like they're their own CEO of their own leads, and they treat it with respect. They treat the leads that they're given by the company that spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, if not millions, to generate those leads. And they make sure that the leads are called. They make sure they take them through the sales process. Whereas a lot of salespeople that never invest in themselves, they just don't care because it's not money they're spending on leads. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like the sales guys that treat their job as their own business. Where in any business, you got to acquire some assets, you got to acquire some debts, which are ultimately going to allow you to create more ROI long term. And it's also one, it shows the ability to take risk, and it shows a bit of a hunger to get better. Typically, if you've invested in yourself in the past, you're probably going to do that in the future, and that doesn't always mean purchasing extra products in the future. It could mean dedicating the time to do the products that are at your disposal.
Yeah. I want to ask you about this. Let's, because we have, obviously sales professionals that sell anything, watch the show, listen to the show. We have business owners, entrepreneurs that are in, hundreds of different industries that follow us. Let's talk about what are, one or two things that, let's say, a new company should do. Let's say a new company has 4 or 5 reps. Kind of take us back in the old days a couple of years ago when there was like 4 reps there. And let's talk about, how did you build a culture with 3, 4, 5 people? Let's talk about that first. And after that, then let's go over like, how do you build the culture now with like over 100 salespeople? And what are the differences? Let's talk about the small company first.
It's easier with a small company.
Yeah.
Right? There's less moving parts. And the idea is, I don't like to look at it as a small company versus a big company. I kind of look at it as like, this small company, you need to set the foundation for when it is a big company.
Why is that so important?
It's very hard to go and rechange things once you get to a larger size. So not that you can't, but building it at the start, as you grow, you need to, you want to bring in a core group of people that represent you really well, that are going to be there for the long run, that want to grow with your company. And when you can get that, it's very easy to set what those standards are, set what that culture is. Yeah. And then as that continues to grow, there isn't any one individual person responsible for pushing that out and training people. You can build a system where that core group, as you grow, they're now responsible for helping out another, core group of people. They're responsible for bringing up the younger people, teaching them the right skills, making sure they're upholding the standards. So you want to really spend the time, particularly when your company is early on, between 0 and 20 employees, getting that right there, making sure that there's buy-in for that, and then buy-in for the direction that you're moving in.
How do you get that buy-in though? I know everybody's asking like, hey, I'm a new business owner. I've got some employees. I've got a sales team of 4 people. How do I get the buy-in from my sales team that they're really going to perform and take this seriously?
It comes down to leadership qualities. Yeah. Right. You're a good leader. People will listen to you. You're not a very good leader. People won't. Yeah. But it's also like, and particularly if we're talking solely sales companies or companies that have a heavy emphasis on sales, as that person that's selling the culture, you yourself have to invest and be good at that sales. Because if you're not able to get on the phone, deliver a good result, and show someone where they can get better, then they'll never take you seriously and never give you the respect, therefore are never going to buy into the direction you're going. So it really starts with like leading by example there. And that's why with us running a sales organization, we went really hard in getting good at sales. Look at Matt and Marco, for instance. Yeah. Yourself. If you haven't had such a good success rate in your sales career, people wouldn't listen to you.
That's probably a good point, especially as salespeople. Yeah. So if you're here,
nor should they, right?
If you're a business owner, if you're a sales manager or a VP of sales or even a chief sales officer, you set that culture right where people respect you by your own sales ability. If you're running a sales team, but you can't sell, salespeople aren't going to really respect you. Even if you're a great leader, they just won't.
Yeah, it's the same as on the the sports field. If you're Tom Brady and you can't throw a pass, no one's going to listen to you. They're not going to be convinced that you're going to be able to lead them to a touchdown.
The Super Bowl.
It's just,
I agree.
or the Super Bowl.
Now let's talk about, okay, so companies are obviously a lot bigger, 100 some salespeople, outbound, inbound, all that kind of stuff, the whole team. How do we build that culture and maintain that culture to grow to 250 salespeople or grow to 500 salespeople or 1,000 salespeople? Like, what are you doing right now with the team to make sure we're doing that?
It really comes down to making sure that, where I feel like as a leader, like your main job as the leaders is to create other leaders, right? You're never going to have time to do one-on-ones with all 250 of those people, but someone's going to have to.
Yeah.
And it's a process of then teaching that to the new leaders coming through, giving them extra responsibility, giving them more ownership over the process, and then kind of empowering them along with those standards and that culture so that they're able to take control over a smaller group of people, make sure that they're doing the right job, make sure that they're upholding the standards, and make sure that that hiring process is correct so that the younger guys that come in, the newer guys that come in, they can adopt, they can follow the process, they can follow the NEPQ, they can follow the trainings and get really good quickly so that they see results to keep that buy-in there. And it really just comes down to doing the same thing that you've done before, just empowering other people to be able to do that.
Yeah. So, okay. So now that we have like 100 salespeople, or if like you're listening to us and you're a business owner that maybe has 100 people on your team or whatever, and you're wanting to go to 250 or 500, besides, let's talk a little bit more about that process that you put in place. Like, what did you look for in those people that are underneath you that are now running all that? Well, you're kind of like over them. You're like almost like 2 levels up of the team that's actually running those people now. Like, what type of traits were you looking for in those people? And why did you decide it should be this guy or girl compared to this guy or girl?
Yeah, good question. I think there's 2 types of people, right? There's people that have that ambition, they want to get to the next level, and then there's people that are happily working where they're at, right? Usually sales guys are those people that want to get to the next level. Sure. They're usually working as a commission-only rep as opposed to someone with a base salary. And it's usually like those guys, one, they've been quite successful at sales. And when you're ambitious, they're like, oh, well, I've conquered this. What are the next steps? How do I get to the next level? And that next level is usually, well, one, I can get paid more if I can have a team doing sales for me that brings me more income. And there's not much of a selection criteria of like going out and finding these people. They typically come to us.
Yeah.
What are those sales guys will come to us and say, I'm ready for that next step.
Yeah.
What do I have to do? What additional skills do I have to learn? And typically that's not usually more sales skills. It's more management skills. It's more systemization skills. It's more leadership skills. And then it's really just a conversation. Well, the sales guy, if you want to get to here, we've got this big gap. You're going to need to learn X. You're going to need to learn Y. You're going to need to learn Z.
So you're telling them, hey, you might not be ready yet, but if you can learn this, this, and this, you might be ready at that point.
And then at that stage, if you can show us that you're competent in that, then we'll give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then it's
and at least they know, right? Like, hey, I didn't get it right now, but if I learn this, this, and this, I can go there. But at least you're telling them.
In that pathway, in the same way that that Dennis Rodman wants the pathway to become the Michael Jordan,
Exactly.
This is what you need to do to get there.
And
we're
one
going to leave
thing,
it to you to do it.
I think a lot of people, when I talk to a lot of companies, like, man, you guys have really, really young salespeople. Why do we hire really, really young salespeople compared to like sales veterans who might have already been in sales for 20 plus years?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, usually some of those younger guys, they're typically coming in with less experience. And we know
Why
that
would we want somebody that's less experience over somebody that's been around 20, 30 years in sales?
Because the process, we trust to get them good quickly.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy to, sometimes it's easier to train people, and not a blanket statement. We have a lot of people that come in with 20 years of experience and they're like, I can adopt this. But usually those people are already in really good jobs where if they get better skills, they're just going to make more money. So there's no point coming in to start from the bottom.
Sure.
Whereas the younger guys without that experience, they want to start from the bottom. They want to build themselves up, and they want to be in a position where they can, learn the right skills.
And we teach them the right skills from day number one.
Exactly.
So it's not like we have to go like untrain them, like unbrainwash them from like traditional, wheel and deal and push them, manipulate them type of sales that they've been taught for 25 years. Because sometimes it takes people that experience a little bit of time to like unlearn what they're doing wrong, and then like us build them back up. Whereas like a new person, they just learn the right way from day number one.
Exactly. It's a fresh piece of paper to start painting on, It's a lot easier to
good
teach.
Analogy. I like that.
Yeah. I couldn't think of a better one. I'm sorry.
That's beautiful. Well, hey man, I just wanted to have you come out here. I always try to change things up. It's usually Matt and I, we're talking about different things. We bring on different guests, but I love having you on here. We've had you on several times. Any last words of advice you have for anybody listening about building that team culture in your sales force?
Yes. So start with getting the right skills. Once you got the right skills, things will start to fall into place. Then figure out what skills you need next to take that to the next level. Then go find someone to teach you those skills.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, now if you guys make sure you go ahead and join the free Facebook group, salesrevolution.pro. If you're a sales manager and you're wanting to get your teams to sell more, if you're an entrepreneur or business owner, you're wanting to scale your company maybe from 6 figures to 7 figures, or if you're at 7 figures, how do you get to 8 figures? If you're at 8 figures, how do you go to 9 figures, right? Like we have to learn more advanced skills to get to the next level. So if you want your salespeople to learn those type of skills, or if you're an individual salesperson and you want to start making 10 grand a month in commissions, or maybe 15 or 20 grand a month in commissions, or 30 grand or 40 grand plus a month in commissions, wherever you're at, doesn't matter your industry. We train over 160 some industries at this point and counting, 163 or something. I don't know. I can't remember. It changes every day.
It's a lot.
The best place to look at some of our resources to find out what we do, our methodology, NEPQ, is just go to our free Facebook group. Okay. So you just go to www.salesrevolution.pro. We'll have the link in here. Go to salesrevolution.pro, www.salesrevolution.pro. Right when you join, either myself or someone on our team will message over to you a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course by my business partner and CEO, Matt Ryder. And Matt will break down the NEPQ process and give you several questions and how to use them in different sales situations, no matter what you sell, that will automatically help you sell more. In the Facebook group, we go live about 3 to 4 times a week with different trainings, different Q&As, different script writing sessions, those type of things from different industries. So if you want to sell more, just go to salesrevolution.pro. That's the best place to start the process. Yep. And if you want to learn even more advanced training on that, you can always message us in there. James, thanks for being on there.
All right.
Stay warm over there in Sydney, Australia. It's the winter time there. It's freaking hot here in the Scottsdale office, though.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, bye, guys. Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're going to help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.